The twin suns of Zevra burned low on the horizon, throwing long shadows across the black crystal towers of the royal palace. The air shimmered with the strange hum of energy that ran through the world's veins. Soldiers in shining armor lined the great entrance hall, standing motionless as the heavy crystal doors swung open. From beyond them, a deep voice echoed through the corridor, and every warrior straightened their back. The queen was arriving. Her name was Queen Serathia, ruler of the Zevran Empire, conqueror of 7 star systems, and the most feared monarch in the Orion sector. She was tall and elegant, her silver crown glowing faintly against her violet skin. Her golden eyes could silence an entire room with one glance. That morning, however, her steps carried something new, something like anger mixed with disbelief. Behind her walked her advisors, the high guards, and the nervous royal attendants. They followed her through the grand hall until she reached the throne room, where her daughter, Princess Lyra, stood waiting with her head bowed. The queen's gaze was sharp as a blade. She didn't look at Lyra first. Her eyes moved past her daughter to the man standing just behind her, a human. He looked out of place in the great alien hall, his uniform torn, his boots scuffed, his face marked with fatigue but calm determination. His name was Captain Daniel Ross, an Earthborn officer whose mission to broker peace had gone terribly wrong. His ship had been destroyed weeks ago in a crossfire between alien fleets, leaving him stranded on Zevra's frontier world. Most humans captured by Zevrans were taken as prisoners or sent away. But Daniel's fate had been different, because he had saved the princess's life. The silence in the throne room was heavy enough to crush words. When the queen finally spoke, her voice carried through the hall like a command. "My daughter," she said slowly, "you brought this human into my palace?" Lyra's voice shook slightly, but she forced herself to answer. "Yes, mother. He saved me when our convoy was attacked by raiders. I owe him my life." The queen's eyes narrowed. "Raiders?" Lyra nodded quickly. "They came out of nowhere. They destroyed the escort ship. He fought them off alone. Without him, Enough." The queen's tone cut through the air like a blade. "You have broken royal protocol. You have allowed an outsider, a human, to step inside these walls." The guards around the hall shifted uncomfortably. Daniel stood silently, his hands relaxed at his sides. His eyes didn't waver. He looked at the queen as if facing any commanding officer, steady, respectful, but not afraid. The queen finally turned to him. "You human, you saved my daughter." "Yes, Your Majesty," Daniel replied in a calm voice. "But anyone would have done the same." The queen raised an eyebrow. "You think so? My people see humans as unpredictable, impulsive, and violent. You do not fight for honor, you fight for power." Daniel shook his head. "Not all of us. Sometimes we fight because it's the right thing to do." The hall grew even quieter. Many of the alien nobles exchanged doubtful looks. It was rare, almost unthinkable for a human to speak so directly to the Queen of Zevra. But Daniel's tone wasn't arrogant. It was steady, grounded, and honest. That honesty seemed to unsettle everyone more than pride ever could. The queen studied him for a long moment before she spoke again. "You risked your life for someone not of your kind. Tell me, why?" Daniel took a breath. "Because she was in danger and I could help. That was enough reason." Lyra's eyes softened as she looked at him. The queen's expression, however, remained unreadable. She turned away and began pacing slowly before the throne. "You speak like a soldier, but words are wind, Captain. I care only for proof." She stopped and faced him again. "Tonight you will enter the training arena. My warriors will test you. If you survive, you will earn the right to stand in my court. If not, your fate ends there." Daniel nodded. "Understood." Lyra stepped forward quickly. "Mother, he's injured." "He hasn't—" "Enough, Lyra," the queen interrupted. "If he is truly the man you claim him to be, he will not need your protection." Daniel's lips curved slightly into a small smile. "It's all right, Princess. I've faced worse odds." The queen gave him one last long look before she turned and walked toward her throne. "We shall see, human. Guards, prepare the arena." As the guards led Daniel away, Lyra's heart pounded. She wanted to stop him, to beg her mother for mercy, but one look from the queen froze her in place. That night, as darkness spread across the twin moons, the arena lights flared to life. The training grounds of the Zevran Palace were legendary across the galaxy. It was said that even star generals trained there until their armor cracked. The walls were made of black metal that absorbed light, and the floor shimmered faintly from the heat of buried reactors. Rows of alien warriors filled the stands, curious to see what the Queen's challenge would reveal. Daniel stood at the center wearing only a simple combat uniform and holding a blunt training spear. Around him stood 6 Zevran champions, their bodies tall and scaled, their armor alive with glowing patterns of energy. They moved like shadows under the harsh lights. A deep voice announced the rules. No weapons beyond the arena's standard. No retreat. Only surrender ends the test, the horn sounded. The first warrior charged. Daniel sidestepped at the last second. His instincts honed from years of battle on Earth. The alien swung again, faster this time, but Daniel dropped low, swept his leg out, and sent the armored giant crashing to the floor. Gasps filled the stands. 2 more came at once. Daniel used their size against them, letting them overextend before striking quick, precise blows. His weapon cracked against armor joints and pressure points, not to injure, but to disable. He wasn't fighting to prove anger or dominance. He was surviving, reading his opponents like an old book. Minutes stretched like hours. Sweat rolled down his face and his arms ached, but he didn't stop. When the final opponent fell to one knee, breathing hard, Daniel lowered his weapon and stepped back. "Enough," he said quietly. The silence that followed was total. Then slowly the Queen rose from her high balcony. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes gleamed faintly gold. "Remarkable," she murmured. Then louder, "Bring him to me at dawn." That night, Daniel was escorted back to the quarters that had once belonged to visiting diplomats. Lyra waited outside the door, her face filled with worry. When she saw him, she rushed forward. "You shouldn't have done that. The arena tests are brutal." Daniel smiled tiredly. "I'm still standing." She lowered her voice. "My mother doesn't trust humans. She thinks we're dangerous because of the wars your kind fought near our borders. But I saw you risk your life when you could have escaped. I don't understand how someone so feared can be so human." He chuckled softly. "That's all I am, Princess. Just human." Lyra hesitated before saying, "Tomorrow won't be easy. The council will demand judgment. Some want you executed for entering the palace." Daniel nodded calmly. "Then I'll face them. One thing I learned back home, running never helps." Lyra's eyes softened again. "You're strange, Captain." He smiled faintly. "You're not the first to say that." She left reluctantly, her long silver robes gliding over the floor. When Daniel was alone, he sat by the narrow window, looking at the alien stars outside. The sky was different, but the feeling was familiar. The silence before fate decides your path. In another part of the palace, Queen Serathia stood on the balcony of her private chamber. The night air carried the hum of the planet's energy veins. She looked down at the arena far below, still faintly glowing from the earlier battle. She couldn't deny what she had seen. The human had fought not like a conqueror, but like a protector. Every move had purpose, every strike restrained. Her advisor approached quietly. "My queen, shall I order his execution at dawn?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes remained on the stars. "No," she said finally. "Not yet. There is more to him than I thought." The advisor frowned. "He is human. Their kind brought war to the sectors. They cannot be trusted." The Queen's tone was soft but firm. "Perhaps. But this one fought for my daughter when none of ours could reach her in time. I will judge him myself." She turned away from the stars and walked back into her chamber. The walls were covered with banners from her victories, reminders of her empire's power. Yet tonight they felt heavy, like trophies from a past that no longer mattered. For the first time in years, she felt uncertainty. The galaxy was changing. Her empire was strong but divided. Old enemies were gathering, and the council whispered about rebellion. She needed strength, real strength, to hold her world together. And something in that human soldier's calm eyes reminded her of the kind of resolve she had once respected in her own generals. At dawn, the palace awoke to the sound of drums. The Queen entered the grand hall again, her crown glinting under the rising suns. Daniel was brought before her, surrounded by guards but unshackled. Lyra stood nearby, unable to hide her worry. The Queen studied him for a long time before speaking. "Captain Daniel Ross," she said. "You survived the trials of my arena. Few have done that. Tell me, what drives you to fight as you do?" Daniel's voice was steady. "I fight to protect life, Your Majesty. Whether it's my own people or yours, it doesn't matter." The Queen's eyes searched his face for signs of deception, but she found none. He spoke like a soldier who had seen enough death to know its weight. You expect me to believe that a human, after all your wars, fights for something as simple as life? She asked. The palace was quiet the next morning, but beneath its calm surface, tension moved like electricity. The Queen of the Sarathi Dominion, Arvella, walked through the royal corridors, her mind filled with questions that refused to rest. The man she had married, a human from Earth, was not the simple diplomat she had believed him to be. The night before, she had watched him move like a storm-given form, faster and stronger than any soldier in her command. He had saved her life and defended the throne with precision no Sarathi had ever displayed. When she found Nathan standing alone on the palace balcony, the twin sons of Zir lighting his face, she realized she was seeing him differently now. He was calm, silent, and unarmed, but there was something deep in his eyes, a weight of experience she had never noticed before. Arvella stepped closer, her tone sharp but curious. You told me you were an officer, Nathan. But officers don't fight like that. What are you hiding from me? Nathan turned his gaze toward the horizon where distant warships floated like silver birds. I never lied to you, Your Majesty, he said softly. I am an officer, but I was also made for something more. She folded her arms. Made? He nodded slowly. On Earth, there are soldiers trained for peace, and there are soldiers prepared for extinction. I was one of the second kind. The Queen blinked, not understanding. You mean genetically built? Nathan shook his head. No, just shaped. Humans don't rely on machines to make heroes. We learn, we fail, we adapt. I survived things that broke armies, and Earth decided that such men should never be left unguarded. For a long moment, Arvella said nothing. Her people had always seen humans as the younger species, brave, emotional, and impulsive, but never dangerous. Yet here was proof that she had married something the galaxy had underestimated. So Earth sent you as a weapon? She asked finally. No, he said quietly. They sent me as a promise. Humanity wanted peace with your dominion, but they knew peace doesn't last if one side feels superior. They sent me to remind your nobles what humans can become when we're cornered. The Queen looked away. It was difficult to hear, yet something about his words rang true. She had seen the pride in her council, the mocking smiles when his name was mentioned, the way the nobles treated him like a pet ambassador. Now that illusion was broken. Before she could respond, a sudden alarm blared across the palace. A voice came through the intercom, panicked and sharp. Your Majesty, enemy ships incoming. Multiple signatures inbound from the outer rim. Arvella's blood ran cold. The rebels again? Nathan was already moving. Not just rebels, he said grimly. They wouldn't have regrouped this fast unless someone funded them. Within minutes, the skies of Zir darkened. Massive destroyers descended through the clouds, their energy cannons glowing like suns. The Queen rushed to the command hall, soldiers racing past her. The entire city below trembled as the first orbital strike hit the shield barrier. Nathan stepped beside her at the holomap table. Your defense grid's down by 30%, he said after a glance. They'll breach the capital within the hour. The Queen stared at him. Then we fight. He gave her a firm nod. Together. The two of them boarded her flagship, the Viraskel, a golden warship that shimmered like molten glass. As the fleet rose to meet the enemy, the Queen stood tall beside him, her ceremonial armor gleaming under the warlight. The bridge crew saluted, though many still looked uncertain seeing a human stand at her side in command. The first battle came fast and brutal. Rebel cruisers swarmed the fleet, launching energy torpedoes and plasma spears. The Queen's ships fought back fiercely, but they were outnumbered 3-1. Nathan moved between stations with quiet authority, issuing orders in short, steady tones. His calm spread through the bridge like an unseen shield. Divert power to forward shields, he said. Then rotate formation Delta 7. We'll break their central line. The Sarathi commander hesitated. That formation's suicidal. We'll expose our flanks. Do it, Arvella ordered. Trust him. The fleet shifted, and for a moment chaos threatened to swallow them. But then Nathan adjusted the command codes on the targeting grid, and suddenly the Sarathi ship's plasma lances fired in perfect synchronization, punching through the enemy's core formation. One rebel cruiser exploded. Then another. Then a third. Cheers erupted on the bridge. For the first time in hours, the Queen saw hope flicker in her people's eyes. Nathan didn't smile. His focus stayed on the scanners. They're not retreating, he murmured. They're waiting for something. Seconds later, the air cracked open. A ship unlike any they had seen before emerged from subspace, black, enormous, and bristling with weapons. It was a dreadnought, and it dwarfed everything in orbit. The Queen's heart sank. That's impossible. Those are Dominion prototypes. Only the High Command should have them. Nathan's jaw tightened. Then your rebellion has inside help. Before they could react, the dreadnought fired. The blast ripped through half their formation, sending debris spiraling through the void. The Viraskel shook violently, alarm screaming. The Queen stumbled, but Nathan caught her arm, steadying her. "We have to fall back," said one officer. "No," Nathan said firmly. "We end this now." He moved to the command terminal, fingers dancing over controls faster than any Sarathi had ever seen. The Queen's eyes widened as human-coded interfaces appeared on the alien screen. "You integrated Earth systems into our ship?" she asked, astonished. "I've been preparing for this," he said without looking up. "Your technology is powerful but predictable. I taught your ship to think like a human." Within moments, the Viraskel's systems came alive with new precision. Shields realigned, weapons calibrated with impossible speed. Nathan rerouted reactor energy into a pulse pattern that disrupted enemy sensors. The dreadnought's cannons hesitated for a fraction of a second, and that was all he needed. "Now," he shouted. The Queen fired the main plasma lance. The beam struck the dreadnought's hull and detonated deep within its core. For a moment it looked like nothing had happened. Then light erupted from every crack of the massive vessel. It split apart like a dying star. When the light faded, the rebel fleet was gone. Only silence and drifting debris remained. The Queen exhaled shakily. Her people began to cheer, their voices echoing across the comms. Nathan leaned back from the console, his breathing calm, though his body trembled slightly from exhaustion. Arvella turned to him slowly. How did you know what to do?" He smiled faintly. "Because humans have always fought enemies bigger than us. We just learned to use our minds before our muscles." For the first time since their marriage, the Queen laughed softly. It wasn't mockery, it was awe. "You've changed everything I thought I knew about your kind." Nathan looked out at the stars. "Maybe it's time your people see humans as partners, not pawns." The victory sent waves across the galaxy. News of the battle spread fast. How a human commander had saved the Sarathi Queen and destroyed a dreadnought single-handedly. On dozens of worlds, alien leaders began to speak of Earth with new respect, even caution. But inside the palace, the story was more personal. The Queen walked with Nathan through the quiet gardens where crystal leaves shimmered in the wind. She had once felt embarrassed by their marriage, forced by politics. Now she felt something deeper, a quiet admiration that words could not hide. "You could have left that night," she said softly. "You could have returned to Earth after saving me. Why did you stay?" Nathan looked at her, his expression calm but warm. "Because peace isn't made by leaving. It's made by standing beside someone until the fighting stops." Arvella's voice grew gentle. "You've done more than protect me, Nathan. You've protected what my people forgot, the meaning of honor." He smiled slightly. "Humans aren't perfect, Your Majesty. We just remember our promises even when others forget." She turned toward him, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the twin suns. For the first time, she saw him not as an envoy or soldier, but as a man who carried the weight of humanity's hope. The weeks that followed changed the Dominion forever. The Sarathi nobles who had mocked Nathan now bowed when he passed. The alliance between Earth and the Dominion grew stronger, built not on politics but on shared battle and trust. Together they began rebuilding the shattered cities of Zir. Nathan worked beside Sarathi engineers, teaching them new methods of energy control and strategy that surprised even their brightest minds. One night, as the city lights flickered under the stars, the Queen joined him on the observation deck. Below them, thousands of Sarathi citizens were chanting his name, something no alien crowd had ever done for a human. Nathan listened quietly, his expression humble. "I didn't fight for fame," he said. Arvella nodded. "I know. That's why they trust you." For a long moment they stood together, the silence filled with the hum of the great city. Finally, the Queen spoke again, her voice low and thoughtful. "Do you ever miss your home?" Nathan looked out toward the stars. "Every day. But maybe this is what home becomes when you fight for something greater than yourself." Arvella studied him for a moment longer. "You are not what I expected when I agreed to this marriage," she said softly. He chuckled. You and me both, Your Majesty. Then, after a pause, she said something that surprised even herself. No, not Majesty. Just Arvella. Nathan looked at her with quiet respect. Then call me Nathan. Their eyes met, and for the first time since their union,